In this video, I'm going to show you how to open your CSV file we downloaded in the previous video where you did an export of all the requisitions for the annual buy. And so I have this on my desktop here, so I'll go ahead and open that file. Again, this is a CSV file, so it's going to open up, and if I don't save this file as an Excel, it's not going to save any of the formatting changes that I make. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come up, do a file, save as, and I'm going to save it right back to that temporary folder I have on my desktop. And I'm going to say Excel workbook. And at this point, I may even rename the file to something a little bit different. But for this purpose, we're just going to, well, let's name it 2016 AB orders. And so we know, looking at that that's our 2016 annual buy orders. And then I'm going to hit save. Some of the first things I like to do is go ahead and resize columns and so forth, and hide columns that I do not need to utilize. So, but I'll go ahead and bold this column or this row. So I'll highlight my row and do a Control B for bold, or come up and select the bold out of the menu. Just makes that header column stand out a little bit. The other thing I'll do is freeze that column. So I'll go up to View and say Freeze Panes. I'm going to freeze the top row. And then if I want to resize all of the columns so I can read the text in them, I'm going to select the whole spreadsheet by clicking on the arrow or the triangle up in the upper left-hand corner here. That'll select my whole document, and then I'll be able to resize all the columns at once by double-clicking on the row or the column headers here between. Notice how the arrow changes there when I get on the line, so I have to double click right on the line here, and then that'll resize my columns. Now, obviously some of these columns are wider than they really need to be. The requisitions I will resize down to something that's a little bit more manageable. And what I might do is just do word wrap on this. So I highlight the column and say wrap text. So if it's any longer than that, it'll wrap it then. The username, the person that ordered that item is in the export, along with their email. Email is probably not needed right now, so I'm going to highlight that field, right click on it, and I'm just going to hide it. I may need it sometime later, but at this point, I'm just going to get it out of the way so I'm not looking at it. The contract is actually going to be the vendor name. So if I resize that column, and for some reason my columns didn't resize like they should have, but so I'm going to resize that, and we'll sort by vendor name later. Attachments, there are no attachments in this export, so there's none needed. So I'm going to delete that column. No use of even having it in there. And then our item, I'm going to resize that, and then I'm going to wrap the text on it so it's a little bit easier to read. Then we have part number, manufacturer name, manufacturer part number, which resize that a little bit here. The single price for each, the unit of measure, which is important to us on whether it's a dozen or an each, quantity ordered, item total, so that total dollar amount. I may just change the formatting on that so it's a dollar amount along with the price. So I'm going to change those. The payment, whether it's a purchase order or credit card, this may be important later. If we're troubleshooting why payment didn't go through, we may look and say, oh, because we had it listed as credit card. Didn't really mean that. It should have been PO on all the annual buys. So you may want to retain this data. So I'm going to hide this column. So we're just trying to pare it down to those items that we only want to deal with. Again, the shipping address, where that item was shipped to. This is probably important to keep for the fact that if something shows up at another site, then we know that it was incorrectly chosen. And so, again, I may wrap some of this text so it doesn't take up too much space. Status, notice we have one down here that's called created versus approved. So will make a difference. But on our previous, well, at least on our previous export, we chose approved, and that's why we want to do that. Whereas this order here was created, it was not placed, which mean they saved it to their shopping cart. So which brings me up to another feature you may want to utilize, and that's the filter. So we're going to turn filtering on so we can filter out those created or what other canceled items and just make sure we only get the items that were approved and placed for orders. So if I highlight the header row, I come up to my filter and I'm going to say filter. Turn filtering on. When I do that, I get these drop-down boxes, and the way that works, I'll show you in the status window here, because we want to filter this one out. This one did not go to the vendors because it was saved as a shopping cart. It never got submitted. So if I click on the down arrow, I get this drop down and I get check boxes. I can either use the check boxes or I can enter a search criteria if I'm looking for something specific like a school name or something. I can pull up a certain school's orders if I just put in the school name. But what we're looking for are those that are approved. Active is something different I'm not sure about. And so denied and pending approval. So we're just going to look at the ones that are approved. And this should have been on our export. The particular one I ran, I did not set that feature. I wanted to look at everything. So if a school called, we could view that information. So now we're looking at only those that have been approved. The approvers, this is something, again, I'm not necessarily needing. You may or may not want to delete this, so you could hide this. PO numbers, probably pretty important to have. Although, because we downloaded this from the requisitions table, not the purchase order tables, if you made any changes to your PO numbers before they were sent to the vendors, these may not match up exactly. And then the time submitted and last modified, I don't need that information and who it was modified by. So I'm just going to hide that information. Account number 1, if I'm looking for a specific service unit area, I can filter on that by selecting the filter, but I'm not needing that right now. But the account 2 is going to be the district name. And so I'm going to keep that for these purposes. You should only see your district name in there. So this is something else that you may want to hide. And then the account 3 is an account district number, NDE's number. So you may want to hide those too. So if I hide all that, it kind of pares everything down to just the information I want. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this tab. I'm going to say rename, and this is going to be my master tab. Then I'm going to create a number of other tabs. Dependent upon what school I'm working with, it may have multiple sites and so forth. So, but one of the tabs I want to create is probably labels. And so I'm going to add a new tab and rename this, call it labels. We could also do one called sorting. So when those items come in, we're going to be able to sort those items. So I'm going to call this sorting. And at that point, what I'm going to do is come back to my master tab again, and I'm going to select the whole tab, the whole spreadsheet. And actually, because this is going to be so large with the whole states, I'm going to filter this down a little bit. And so I'm going to come over, we're going to filter on an account. We're going to choose Centura. And so this is an example of I can filter down Centura's orders very quickly by using a filter by entering that into this filter dialog box. And when I say OK, you'll notice the account names will change to only those of Centura because that's the one that's checked down below. And that's what we have. And so you notice there are some paper orders in this. So again, I didn't set that filter to filter only on the annual buy items. It was all the orders. So one of the other things that if we're going to be only dealing with annual buy, what we may want to do is actually on the contract, we'll filter this down to 2016-ESUCC-AB, and then all I get is those contracts that are annual buy items. So we have that filter down for Centura now. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and copy. Actually, I'm going to do it this way so it doesn't copy the whole page and crash my machine. So I'm going to page down to the very end of their order. Went past it. Do a Control C. And I'm going to paste that in both the labels and the sorting page. And you'll see why we do too. So again, my master tab, I'm not going to mess with much more. That is probably a true extract of the way it came out of the system, other than those columns that we knew we weren't going to utilize and stuff. So now that I have Centura's orders over here, again, I'm going to select everything, resize. Not sure why that's not working for me today. Yep, didn't want to do that too far. Resize this and see if this works this time. There we go. At least it did there. You'll just manually do that one then. So I've got my columns resized. Kind of probably want to do the rows too, because it kind of messed that up when we brought that in. So, okay. Well, it's not working like it should today. So, on the labels, the way we want this is, usually we want this by numeric order. And so numeric order is going to be under item name. And so it gives us the numeric. It starts with the numeric and then filters down to the description of the product. So if I come up to data, let my menu drop back, data, and sort. I want to sort first by that item description that has the numeric number in there. Then I'm going to add a level, and then I'm going to sort then by user. At that point, I say OK. It's resorted it. It's going to be a numeric order. And after numeric, then it's going to search based, or it's going to filter on this username then. I'm going to go ahead and freeze these panes. So if we're working in here under view, freeze panes, we're going to freeze the top row. So that's easy to make it when I scroll down. Keeps my headers available there. So really that's all we need to do with labels. Labels are ready to be utilized, to be pointed to at least by a mail merge document. And so we'll leave that alone for now. We're not going to go into the mail merge right now. The other item that you want is a spreadsheet that's put together, and this is going to be sorted by vendor name, and that will allow you, so when you get a shipment in, say from Brown and Sanger, you'll be able to at least go to the Brown and Sanger section. You could actually come in and use the filter and filter for Brown and Sanger and only look at those orders. So and then you're going to be able to keep track of some other things as you receive those. So and so the first thing I'm probably going to do is I'm going to turn filtering on again here. So if I come back to home, come over to sort and filter, I'm going to turn that on. Then I'm going to resize these columns again. Again, they don't want to resize like I want them to. Copy and paste kind of messed them up. And so if I do this, see if it works. Much better. And so I've got those resized. So requisition name, I really probably don't need when I'm sorting items. So I'm going to go ahead and hide that to give me some more screen real estate. Contract is the vendor name, and we do need that. We need to be able to identify which vendors are we're receiving items in for. Item is both our description and the item number. Part number, this is what you're going to pay attention to when you're receiving product in, to make sure that it is the correct, actually it'd be manufacturer part number that you would be paying attention to. So that way you're matching it up with, make sure that you're getting the Crayola 23-2412. Price, you may want to keep that for reference back when you're invoiced. Unit of measure is going to help you define how that should be packaged. And so unit of measure is a pack. And if we define that, we may have to go back to the PDF catalog to identify what that pack is. Quantity, item total, shipping address, probably all important. Status may not be as important, so I'm going to hide that. PO number, for me receiving in, you may or may not want that, but I'm going to hide it for now. And the account, we know for each district that it is our district, so we can hide that probably too. But what I am going to include are a column called received, or quantity received. This way, if we can keep track of those items if we want to as they come in. And then a notes column. So anything that may be damaged, maybe I'm short on items when it comes in to the school district. I received a replacement for a damaged item later on. I can keep those notes in there of when I received the item and so forth. So it's just kind of a free-for-all column to keep track of things, and as things happen, you'll have a lot of items coming in, so you need a way to keep track of those issues, if you may, as they've come in. So at this point, we have everything we need, probably column-wise. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort this tab called sorting, and I'm going to sort it by vendor first. So if I go up to sort, click sort, notice I don't click on the A to Z sort. This is where I can create a multi-level sort. And so the first level of sort I want to sort by is going to be by that contract name, that vendor name. And so you notice the vendor's name is first, so we're going to be able to sort alphabetically by vendor. And then I'm going to add a level. The next item we're going to sort by is the item number. So we want that to be numerical after the vendor. So it's very easy to find items within the catalog and find them for the vendor. And then the last level we want is by that user name, so by user. And so once I've done that, and it'll do that alphabetically A to Z. Likewise, this is A to Z since it is a text field essentially. So once I say OK to this, it'll resort my spreadsheet. It very quickly, I'm able to see alphabetically items by vendor name. If I receive a package in, what I'm going to be able to do in this spreadsheet, if I from a certain vendor, if I receive a package in, I'm going to be able to very quickly, using my filter feature here, say I've got a shipment from Brown and Sanger today, I can start typing Brown and Sanger in here. And once I've limited it down to just Brown and Sanger, I say OK. Now I'm only dealing with those items that Brown and Sanger has shipped to me. And so it's a smaller subset of my whole order. The thing you have to remember is once this is set, you have to also turn filtering off. So when I come back up here to turn filtering off, I notice the filter is on that because I see the filter icon on the header for the column. I can come up here and say clear filter from contract. So it's only going to clear this column's filter. If I have multiple filters turned on, then I'll have to turn those off also. So I'm going to clear that. So that's a quick way for you to utilize filtering within your spreadsheets as you're sorting these items. And so going back to, say, maybe I received that Brown and Sanger shipment. I've received 101 600 CD, DVD, paper case sleeves. Maybe there's 3 of them ordered instead of the one showing here. And I only received one in. I'm going to receive that in. And so I can keep track of this throughout the year. But maybe on that shipment, maybe 2 of them were damaged. And so I'm going to note that 2 damaged on shipment on May 20th, 2016. Contacted customer support. And they are reshipping replacements. So this just really gives me a way to keep track of what has been done with all the items, especially the ones that may have issues if they were damaged. If you were short, you would also want to note that packing slip showed 3 shipped, only received 1, I'm short 2. And so then you would turn around and report that to the vendor from the vendor contact list. I'm going to go ahead and change the wrap on this and wrap my text here so it's a little more readable. So for the most part, once we've done that, you are ready to begin utilizing your spreadsheet. You still have your master tab, so if you ever need to go back and look at the extract, you can. Really, you don't want to make any changes in that tab. You just keep that as pure as possible. Your labels tab will be utilized if you want to create mailing labels. And so then you would want to do a mail merge document and point to that label or that tab within this spreadsheet. So when you actually walk through that, and if we get time, we'll do a video on creating labels to place on each of the teachers' package. So that way, when it comes in, you can peel those labels off and just go ahead and attach that to the teacher's name, and then you could actually probably hand that off to a custodian or somebody within your building to deliver to the proper rooms. So may alleviate some time that you have to go around delivering all this product. At this point, that is all we have for this video, and I will try and do a follow-up video for mail merge. Thank you.